Hello guys, my story is about my mother-in-law Daisy. I'm Lexi and my husband Zach are writing this story together. We found several stories like these and thought you guys would like this one as well. I won't say that my mother-in-law is super bad or something, but she sure isn't a nice woman. She was usually snarky and looked down on people who lived simple lifestyles. Don't think that she's a rich lady. Nope. She has a humble life, but is generally very snobby. She sure didn't like me when Zach introduced me. Like my father, I too preferred living a humble life, so instantly she had thought that I was poor or something. But she changed her stance once she realized that I earned pretty well. Anyway, now onto the story. Daisy liked to go on vacations and take trips. When Zach and I were planning to go on a hike and stay at my dad's cabin, she excitedly said, "Wow, you guys are going on a hike and you are staying in the woods for free?" "Yeah, my father had a cabin in the woods, so we will stay there. He will be joining us for the trip too." "He actually lives there, so he will be a great guide." "We're hoping to explore some less popular hiking trails too, since he will come along. He's being very generous by allowing us to stay with him for free." "Can I come along too? I would love to go hiking, but accommodation is very expensive there." "Sure, you can come along, but I must warn you, my dad's cabin is small, so don't expect a big hotel." "Oh, that's fine. I'm sure we'll manage. All I want is to go on a trip. Please take me with you. We will have so much fun together." Since Daisy was so excited, we decided to take her along with us. She told us that she didn't mind staying in a small cabin because it was free. I thought it would be nice to come together as a family since Daisy didn't know my dad that well. So I agreed to her request and informed my father that she would be coming along. My father didn't have a problem and said that he would be happy to host her as well. That was a mistake, because I didn't know how bad Daisy could be. When we reached my dad's cabin, Daisy looked very disappointed. For some background, my father is a pretty well-off man. He owns his own company along with his best friend from school. He is pretty successful as a businessman and has a lot of assets in his name. However, he kept his daily life simple and instead chose to spend his money on buying assets and taking his family on an all-paid family vacation. He used to live in a big house but shifted to a cabin later in life. After my mom died, my father moved into the small house that they had built together and he lived in the woods. He was really heartbroken after my mom's passing and said that he wanted to keep a low profile from then on. They had lovingly built that cabin in the woods and had a ton of memories there. So he decided that he would stay there for his last days. I had no complaints because I wanted my father to be happy in whatever way he could. And he was happy in that small cabin. All of Dad's mansions were either put on rent or left empty. There were housekeepers who kept everything pristine. He did stay at these houses at times when he needed to be in the city for work, but he mostly stayed at the cabin and worked from there. His business partner and best friend managed most of the in-person meetings while he joined online. The two of them had a great bond even after 40 years, so Dad didn't have to worry about the business falling apart. There was also me, who ran his errands whenever he couldn't, so he had nothing to worry about. Now, all this was not known to my mother-in-law. Daisy thought that my father was poor and only had a small light cabin in his name. When she accompanied us to visit him, she had expected a huge mansion in the hills like they show in the movies. While stuff like that does exist, they cannot be made by two inexperienced people. The cabin that my parents built was dainty but not very fancy. What can you expect from two inexperienced people who are only doing this as an experimental project? Whatever it was, I loved it, and so did my dad. Even my husband Zach was in love with the place. But Daisy took one look at it and said, "Oh God, what is this place? It's so tiny and shabby. Why have you brought me here?" "Welcome to my humble abode, Daisy. It's going to be your place to stay for 2 days. "This is your house? You actually live here? It's just so ugly and small. Who even built this thing?" "Actually, my wife and I built this together." "Why would you do that? Didn't you have money to hire people?" "Well, we wanted to make a house all by ourselves, so we—" "My God, why would you do that? Only beggars and homeless people would have to build their own houses. Decent people like us shouldn't be doing this." Everyone in the room was horrified to hear what Daisy said. She had no regard for anyone and continued to joke and laugh while literally hinting that my father was a beggar. I was highly offended, and so was my dad. I was mad because she had insulted my father, and my father was mad because she had insulted his greatest possession. He loved that cabin and was very protective of it. If it was someone else, he would have immediately thrown them out. Dad had done that before, but he didn't do that to Daisy because she was my mother-in-law. Zach understood it all and looked super embarrassed. He shut his mother up and said, "What is wrong with you, Mom? You were being very disrespectful to Sean." "What? I'm only stating my observation. I said the truth, though. Normal people don't make their own houses from scratch. I didn't know that your father was this poor, Lexi. You have no right to disrespect and make fun of my dad in his own home, Daisy. You need to apologize to him right now. If he doesn't want to be disrespected, he needs to do better and get a decent place. Anyone living in a DIY house should be made fun of." "Mom, why would you say that? This is horrible. Sean, I'm so sorry. My mom is being super nasty to you." "It's okay, Daisy. I guess she's entitled to her opinion. Let's put this aside and have dinner." My father sportingly ignored Daisy's jabs and diffused the situation. Daisy had no shame and continued to make fun of the house. My father looked weary but didn't say anything bad to my mother-in-law. Zach was giving me and my father apologetic glances while trying to shut up his mother. But Daisy, as usual, wasn't paying any heed to his words. Dinner went by rather awkwardly, and Daisy went to sleep without even bothering to help clean up. Zach tried to tell her that she should be helping, but she said that she was tired. She was given the best room between the two, while Zach and I slept on the couch. Still, Daisy complained about her room as well. Apparently it was too small and wasn't to her liking. I was really tempted to throw her out and tell her to get her own place, but I didn't do that. Once Daisy was off to sleep, Zach frantically apologized to my father and almost begged for forgiveness. He was really embarrassed by his mother and said, "I'm so sorry, Sean. If I had known she would be this rude, I wouldn't have brought her here. I don't know what has gotten into her." "Oh my God, Zach, you don't have to be so apologetic. Your mom's behavior is not your fault, you know. Believe me, I am not holding it against you." "Thanks for understanding, Sean. I'm really ashamed of what my mother did." "It's okay, Zach. You're in the clear. You don't have to say sorry." My dad may be a level-headed person, but I sure wasn't. The way Daisy had insulted my father and even my dead mother was horrible. It made me see red. I wasn't going to forgive her so easily. I was fuming at Daisy's behavior and wasn't going to let it go easily. I was angry and I wanted Zach to know that. And I said, "Your mother has really pissed us off today. I won't forget this. She insulted my mom's memory with this house." "I know, Lexi. I wish I could control what she said. I begged her to stop, but she wouldn't." "I'm not blaming you, Zach, but I think your mom needs to understand that her words will have consequences." "I think I agree with that, Lexi. I won't be rude to your mother for this, Zach. This day will happen as we had planned, but She is not welcome back to the cabin. I want to keep a distance from her. I understand that completely, Sean. I promise she won't be back here. I can promise you that. Good. Let's not allow this to affect our outing. We will try to make the best of this family trip. The rest of the stay was rather uneventful. Daisy continued her behavior, but we didn't get angry anymore. We were just bored of her banter because she said the same stuff again and again. I was thanking God when the trip ended because I just couldn't take Daisy's crap anymore. I also wanted to give my poor father some peace and left as soon as we could. Daisy never took responsibility for her disrespect, didn't help with chores, and didn't even thank my father for hosting her. That day, I realized what a horrible woman she was, and I have regretted taking her along. I'm pretty sure Zach thought that too. Days passed, and I just couldn't get that incident out of my head. I had talked to Zach and told him that I wanted to go low contact with his mother for a while. Zach agreed to it and said that he wanted to go low contact as well. Daisy didn't like that one bit and called us dramatic. We didn't care and stuck to our guns. Eventually, a year passed and it was time for Daisy's words to come back and bite her in the butt. My father had been planning one of his luxury vacations where he took everyone he was close to and paid their share as well. It was always a free trip with us spending money only for personal expenses. Dad was planning to take us on a Caribbean cruise. It was an elaborate plan for 2 weeks and everyone was excited about it. I got my chance to teach Daisy a lesson when my father called me to tell me about this trip. After discussing the details and all, he threw me a question that I was expecting him to ask. So, what do we do about your mother-in-law? What about her, Dad? Should I invite her on this trip? Only you would take a person on a free trip even after they called you a beggar. Well, what can I say? This beggar is feeling a little generous. Besides, she is your mother-in-law, so I don't want to create problems for you. Believe me, Dad, there won't be any problems between us. We don't have a great relationship anyway. Then, what should I do, Lexi? Tell me something, Dad. Forget about everything and just tell me if you have truly forgiven her. Absolutely not, Lexi. I don't forget or forgive people who insult me and my late wife. That's exactly where I draw the line. I don't want to take her on this trip at all. But you want to do it for me. You want to keep the peace between me and Daisy. Yes, Lexi. I will feel guilty if this affects you in a bad way. That's my father for you guys. He was more worried about keeping the peace between me and Daisy than his own vanity. So he was willing to take Daisy on a free trip with us. My dad really does love me a lot. It is true that Daisy would throw a tantrum if she wasn't invited, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to let Daisy take advantage of my father's generosity. So I said, "There's no need to invite Daisy, Dad. We're not taking her on this trip." Are you sure, Lexi? Take some time to think about it. I don't need time, Dad. I won't let anyone take advantage of you after disrespecting you. I will not choose to keep peace with Daisy over you, Dad. But what about Zach? Won't he be upset? I don't think so, Dad. I think he would agree with me. He is a reasonable man and not like his idiot mother. Okay then, if that's what you say, I won't invite Daisy. I must say that I am quite relieved. Daisy would have made me very uncomfortable on the trip. That's exactly why I don't want her to come along. Let her learn a lesson for being such an obnoxious woman. If she throws a tantrum, I will deal with her. Dad was satisfied with my answers and confirmed that he wouldn't be inviting my mother-in-law to the trip. I was giddy with joy because I finally got a chance to show Daisy what are the consequences of insulting my family. My dad made all the final bookings after sending my other in-laws their invites. Naturally, everyone he invited wanted to go, so he made the booking and paid for everyone except my mother-in-law. That same day, I also told my husband about my decision. I sat Zach down and explained my reasons to him. There was a little fear in the back of my mind that he may not agree to exclude his mother, but Zach didn't oppose my plan at all. He supported me 100% because he understood that his mother deserved this. He said, "I can't understand why you didn't want my mother to come along, Lexi. I'm not mad at you." "I'm glad you understood me, Zach. I was a little worried you would be offended." "Why would I be offended, Lexi? I know my mom deserves this. I would have been more surprised if you had allowed her to come along." "I seriously don't want her to have a luxury vacation on my dad's dime, Zach." Zach agreed with me because he is a righteous man. Daisy had been freaking rude and insulting to my father, who was generously hosting us for the hiking trip. Then she didn't even apologize when we confronted her. She lacked the basic decency to apologize to a person when she was wrong. I still don't know if she's stubborn or just ignorant. What I did know was that she needed to be taught a lesson. So I asked my father to not invite her, but to invite other members of Zach's family. A few more weeks passed, and we had started to pack up for our grand trip. Zach's first cousins and their spouses were also invited on the trip because we had a close relationship. That's how word spread to my mother-in-law. In the beginning, when we told her that we would be going for a vacation, she said, "You say that your father will come along too? Wow, how is he going to afford that?" "He has the money, Daisy." "I don't see how a poor man like your father can afford such a big trip." "Well, you don't know everything now, do you, Daisy?" Daisy went quiet when I snapped at her. She still thought that my father was a poor man. So she was curious to know how he could afford the trip. We told her that we were going on a trip, but didn't know that my father was paying for everything. She got to know about it from my own family and realized that almost everyone was going. When she realized that she didn't get an invite, she came back to our house and said, "Hey, why didn't you tell me that Sean is funding your trip?" "Because it's none of your business, Daisy. Why do you care who pays for this trip?" "I had no idea that your father could afford such a trip. How is this possible?" "Well, my father is actually pretty well off and runs his own company with his partner, so he can afford this." "Wow, I had no idea about this." "Yeah, you had been wondering how a beggar like him could afford a trip like this." "Oh, I was just joking. I had no idea he did so well for himself." Daisy was now changing tactics and laughing off her previous comments. Zach and I knew why she was doing this. She wanted to get invited on the trip, so she was trying to play nice. I said, "Well, now you know that he is pretty rich. I see that you are in disbelief." "Yeah, I can't believe he's funding a whole luxury trip for you guys. He even invited most of my family." "Yes, my dad can be very generous when it comes to family." "That's so nice of him, Lexi. You are so lucky to have him as your father." "Yes, I am lucky, Daisy. I am well aware of it." "So when will I get an invite?" I started to laugh when she mentioned getting an invite. I was right in assuming that she came crawling back to our home because she wanted an invite. Too bad she wasn't getting one. I don't know who she thought she was. She was actually confused by my laughter and said, Why are you laughing, Lexi?" "Did you really expect my dad to invite you, Daisy?" "Why not, Lexi? He's invited everyone in my family." "That's true. He had indeed invited everyone. But you are not getting an invite." "Why won't I get an invite?" "Have you really forgotten how you insulted my father at his house? In fact, you continued to make fun of him until last week." "Oh, that. Well, that was just a long time ago, Lexi. It was just a joke. I'm sorry if I hurt his feelings." Now, Daisy was willing to say sorry. It took us a whole year to realize her mistake. Well, there was the trip as an incentive, but she had miscalculated the power of her apology. It was 1 year too late. An apology wasn't going to cut it now, so I smirked at her and said, "There's no use apologizing now, Daisy. You have already lost your chance. You are not getting an invite." Let me talk to your father, Lexi. I'm sure he will understand that I am very sorry. Nope, he doesn't want to talk to you, Daisy. Oh, come on, Lexi, don't be so difficult. You can't leave me here while everyone else is going. You don't have the right to accompany us on all our trips, Daisy. You can arrange your own if you want a trip so badly. Zach, why don't you talk to Sean? Daisy was hoping that her son would help her out. Boy, she was really desperate for a vacation. She thought that her own son would at least advocate for her. What she hadn't realized or remembered was that Zach was also pretty embarrassed by her behavior. So instead of agreeing to speak to my father on behalf of her, he said, "No can do, Mom. As Lexi said, you have lost your chance already. You should have apologized to him when I asked you to. But no, you had to ignore me and continue to make fun of Sean." I already said I'm sorry, Zach. Why don't you guys give me some grace? Because you don't deserve it, Daisy. You made your bed and now you can lie in it. You won't get invited to the trip. That's final. This is really unfair, guys. Well, you just have to deal with it, I guess. Daisy was desperate for an invite and harassed us to convince my dad to invite her too. She said a lot of emotional things, like how visiting the Caribbean was her dream and this was her only chance. She even cried a little when we kept denying her request. She said that we were being selfish and evil. That got Zach really angry, and he told his mom to leave. She immediately regretted her words and tried to backtrack again. Unfortunately for her, the damage was done. We kicked her out and told her that she would never get an invite to this or any trip that my father would plan in the future. The trip happened and we had a lot of fun. Daisy wasn't invited like we said, and she threw a big tantrum. But nothing worked because we were not going to listen to her. When we got back from the trip, Daisy refused to speak to us. She said that we would beg her to talk to us, but when we didn't even bother contacting her, she came home and cried about how we didn't care about her. Daisy and her drama just never ends. Now we have fairly low contact with her and don't speak to her as much. She has resigned herself to the fact that she would never get invited to the trip. We took 2 more trips after that and we stuck to our word. She is never getting invited again, and we actually prefer this way because the trip is way more fun without her annoying presence. Daisy doesn't talk about those trips. She met my father a few times and tried to cozy up to him, but he always maintained his distance and didn't talk to her much. She tried to get her family to ask Sean, but nobody was willing to do that for her. They didn't want to lose out on a free vacation by angering or offending my father, so they never spoke on his behalf. She knew talking to us would be of no use, so doesn't ask us anymore. We don't even invite her on our own trips because of her entitled and cheap behavior. It looks like we will be able to have Daisy-free trips from now on, and I couldn't be happier.